We stopped illegal migration. We have actually built that wall.
When over 1 million immigrants in 2015 came to Europe, many tried to enter the EU through Hungary. But they built a border wall, and this move was widely condemned in Brussels. But the effect of that wall was that the number of illegal immigrants went from a record high to basically flatlining. And this caught the attention of US conservatives.
He runs it properly, he runs it strong.
So here's the part that I don't understand. In the media, I only hear about Hungary losing its democracy, its press freedom and minority rights. But for most years during his term, Orbán was also the most popular prime minister in the entire European Union. I find Hungary to be a very interesting case study. They used to be on the fringes of the Soviet political alliance, before becoming the outer edge of the EU, but they never truly fit into neither. Now, much of the EU is against him, US conservatives, they love him, and this strong base of support at home is showing signs of weakening, as the opposition leader is gaining support. I believe it might be time for a reality check. This is Orbán's Hungary with Hindsight. Viktor Orban has been around for a long time, and you either love him or hate him. That's what the polls show. People either strongly approve of his policies or they strongly disapprove, while it is less common for people to have more nuanced views on his policies. He used to be much more extreme in his political thinking, but he moderated his views to gain broader public support. And his view on Hungary is that he wants to preserve its Christian and traditional family values. So normally what happens in a democracy is that a leader is elected democratically and then he needs to work with the opposition to pass any laws. But in Hungary, something very unique and different happened that gave Viktor Orban so much political power that he could pass any law that he wanted without support from the opposition. Let me take you back to 2003.
A small slip of paper that could change the course, and the president is confident the Yes campaign to join the EU will be successful.
That year, Hungarians voted in a referendum on whether or not to join the EU. Orbán, like most other parties, campaigned for the Yes vote. And that day, Hungarians overwhelmingly voted to join the Union. This placed Hungary at the border of the political alliance. Many Hungarians had the hope that this would have a positive effect on their economy, and for a while, it seemed like it did. The real wages of average Hungarians were consistently growing, and the socialist government credited this result to their policies. In 2006, the socialists achieved a historic election win. Orbán now had 164 seats in parliament, fewer than during the previous elections. But the socialists had a secret. For years, the government and the private sector were taking on massive amounts of debt. They were spending like there was no tomorrow, and this created the illusion of growth, while the country was actually in a very poor shape. The socialist prime minister knew exactly what was going on, and he spoke at a private event with friends of his political party. And there, he admitted to lying about the economy while he was running for re-election. But he did not know that the speech was actually being recorded, and when it was leaked to the public, it caused a deep political crisis. It confirmed what many Hungarians already knew at a gut level. Their economy wasn't performing as well as the government said, and their political leaders were lying about it. And this was right before the 2008 global financial crisis. In the 2010 elections, Orbán won in a landslide. His election victory was huge. His seats in parliament increased from 164 to 263, giving him a 2/3 supermajority.
The old communist system finally gone from Hungary.
It cannot be understated just how consequential this victory was. The Constitution of Hungary at that time required a 2/3 supermajority like this for any leader to pass any major laws. This election result basically gave Orbán the power to single-handedly write a new constitution for Hungary. And he could do this entirely to his liking because he would no longer need the help from the opposition. And and he had every intent on taking full advantage of this opportunity. Hungary was the only country in the former Soviet sphere of influence that hadn't adopted a new constitution after the fall of the Soviet Union. It made sense that they wanted a new constitution, because the old one dated to a time where they had a communist system and not a capitalist one. And Orbán moved quickly. Within a year, he passed a new constitution, and it caught many by surprise. It made sweeping changes to the country's judiciary. He had expanded government powers, he had reduced the power of the central bank, and he drastically overhauled the election laws. One of the things that he did is that he cut the number of seats in parliament in half. He also changed the map of electoral districts. All of this was carefully calculated to favor his political party, but people were still overwhelmingly supporting his leadership. He made drastic changes to the country's media landscape to correct what he called a leftist bias in the media. He required independent media to provide balanced coverage, which critics argued to be intentionally vague so that it could be used to silence criticism. In just 4 years, he had changed the very foundations of Hungary's democracy, and it was again election year.
Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of Budapest. By far the biggest rally backed Viktor Orban's Conservative administration. He says he saved the country from economic collapse.
The opposition was fragmented and poorly organized.
Hungary's former technocrat prime minister failed to draw the crowds they'd been hoping for.
But something curious happened. Orbán had a pretty decent result, but he won about 20% fewer votes than during the previous election. But due to all the changes that he had made to the electoral system, he maintained the exact same number of seats in parliament. Orbán's political power was now well established, and it was about to face the greatest challenge to date.
Police now decide who stays and who moves on deeper into Europe and into uncertainty.
Authorities here are clearly overwhelmed by the numbers of people arriving every day.
During the migrant crisis of 2015, Hungary was in a critical position.
Budapest has already said it's thinking about building a fence along its border with Serbia to keep the growing number of migrants out.
A popular route for migrants was to cross the Mediterranean from Turkey to Greece on a small boat, and then to travel overland through Serbia to reach Hungary. They wanted to reach Hungary because this is part of the Schengen area, where borders are open and there is no passport control. But most migrants were trying to reach Germany, the UK, or Sweden, and Hungary was just a stepping stone. Most European governments had a similar view on the crisis. They felt that they had a moral obligation to help these people in need, but Orbán saw it differently.
That everybody who would like to get into Hungary can do that in a legal way.
He erected a border fence and wall to stop the flow of illegal immigrants, which many EU leaders were against.
In principle, we are against the creation of walls and fences because they can limit the access of people to asylum. And this is a universal human right that needs to be preserved.
Migration is not a fundamental human right. It's not a fundamental human right to pick a country where you would like to live in.
This is Hungary's new foreign minister.
But it is a fundamental human right, though, to have a safe and secure life at home. If you allow hundreds of thousands of people to enter the territory of the European Union without control, without check, does it give the opportunity for the terrorist organizations to send their terrorists to Europe? Yes, it does.
Hungary's controversial stance caught the attention of the American press.
We have provided the legal ways and means entering Hungary and the European Union, but they wouldn't like to use it. They would like to come through by force.
We are very proud of our history, our Judeo-Christian heritage, and we want to preserve it in that way.
Tucker Carlson embraced his story.
Eventually, I texted my friend Tucker Carlson and encouraged him to come over and see for himself.
He flew to Hungary to report on the Hungarian response to the migrant crisis, promoting it as a conservative alternative to securing their border with Mexico.
And that is exactly why Democrats become hysterical when you mention the obvious successes that are on display here in Hungary on the immigration question.
This helped establish Hungary as the conservative model for the United States, while Orbán's relationship with the EU was reaching a new low.
You are not welcome here. This is the house of European democracy, not of corruption, of lies, of propaganda and autocratic rule.
While much of the international community condemned the new direction of Hungary under Orbán, his popularity at home was complex. Take a look at this poll. To the question, how is Orbán handling his job as Prime Minister? The largest groups of people strongly approved or disapproved. People with more nuanced views were in the minority. But also look at this. To the question, does immigration make Hungary a worse or better place to live? Hungarians answer that they believe it's negatively impacting their country. So this is what conservative media often stress. Most Hungarians feel strongly about wanting less illegal immigration, and Orbán made that happen. He had to break a few laws and he had to go against everybody in Brussels, but that made him more of a folk hero. But there's more to Orbán.
The mother is a woman, the father is a man, and leave our kids alone. Full stop, end of discussion.
LGBTI rights are under attack.
Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government passed a sweeping new law banning all LGBTQ+ pride marches.
There are also many reports that show that the media during elections is publishing more positive coverage on Orbán than on the opposition. But this is consistently denied.
Actually, 80% of the online media is so highly government critical. Actually, every day I get up, I get the press release, and 80% of... Okay, you can laugh, but the most popular TV channel, the most popular news, the most popular newspaper are highly government critical.
There are just so many things going on here, but I think it's quite clear that Hungary is moving in a direction where some minorities have fewer rights and where more power is concentrated in the central government. But I also think that the extent of this shift is widely exaggerated. Let me end with this. This is the map of the 2025 Press Freedom Index. Hungary is not doing great at all. They rank below Poland and Slovakia, but they have a similar score as many countries in the Balkans, and Greece is doing much worse. So it is not good at all, but you might have expected Hungary to have a worse score, given all the media coverage that they receive on this topic. Similarly, if we look at the Democracy Index, Hungary has about the same score as Croatia, and all these countries to the south are less democratic. Again, it is not great, but it's also not that extreme. I think that the complexity lies in that both sides are true. Hungary is moving away from liberal democracy and the values that characterize it, while the continued negative coverage in the media might exaggerate just how big a step it actually is. And let me end on a completely different note. You may remember this moment.
The golden age of America begins right now.
On January 20th, Trump signed this executive order, unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential. It reads, "The state of Alaska holds an abundant and largely untapped supply of natural resources." Trump indicated that he wants to develop Alaska's resources to the fullest extent possible. The executive order directs US policy to fully avail itself of Alaska's vast lands and resources. And as you can see on this graph, gold stocks have a tremendous gap to close compared to gold's spot price, which has soared, while Bank of America's chief investment officer is predicting a weaker dollar cycle. US Gold Mining, the sponsor of today's video, is trading on NASDAQ with ticker USGO. They have no debt and about 2.96 million in cash and cash equivalents as of March 31st. And as of June 20th, their stock price was trading some 40% below its all-time high. Their flagship Whistler Gold Copper Silver project includes 3 gold deposits with combined estimated mineral resources of 6.5 million ounces gold equivalent in the indicated category, plus an additional 4.2 million gold equivalent ounces in the inferred category. One shareholder owns 80% of the company, so this is a very unique situation. But the most critical development comes from Trump's attitude towards Alaska. This is the governor of Alaska with President Trump, and below with the CEO of US Gold Mining, Tim Smith. He came to US gold mining from Newmont, a 100-year-old gold producer and one of the largest gold mining companies in the world. He also worked for a company that discovered the coffee deposit in the Yukon, and he advanced the resource until it was acquired by Goldcorp for 520 million Canadian dollars. This was one of the most significant buyouts of the past decade. While we're talking about different projects where outcomes could be different, this is the reason why he was recruited to become CEO, so that he can utilize this skill set and work towards similar goals for US gold mining. With gold recently at $3,400 per ounce, Trump's massive executive order, just one major shareholder, and a CEO that is fit for the role, USGO has a lot going for them. But also do your own homework on USGO, trading on the NASDAQ.